There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you so much for tuning into this brand new interview. I'm dressed up this time. I'm actually dressed up this time. I am very excited to have a guest with you guys today that I'm honestly thankful for this person to being a follower, being a friend. He's a very talented artist in this wrestling community that we have, part of the artist community as well. He's created so much cool stuff. You may have seen him do a couple t-shirts here and there, especially for one Robert Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, known as Red Dragon. You may have seen him do a lot of fan commissions in the past, or maybe, just maybe, you have seen him do a lot of his stuff on Instagram at Vinitude Arts. Like, there's so much that this legend has done. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm going on here, but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the one and only Vinitude Arts. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that introduction. You always have the perfect words to introduce every guest on your interviews. So thank you for that.
Of course. It's awesome to have this conversation with you because I've always wanted to get to talk to you, because if we get to talk, it's either, oh, so like, do you like, can you do this thumbnail, or like it's kind of quick to the point. So I'm glad to get this conversation. You're dressing up nice, and I do appreciate that as well.
Yeah, well, nice button-up shirt with a tie, but I thought I looked presentable today as I talk to you, my friend. So
that's awesome. So I'm going to hit you with a spitball or fireball question really quick, as I do with every interview.
I'm ready.
So the spitball fireball question is, you ready for this?
I think so.
Do you think that pineapples belong on pizza?
Question. My wife would say yes, absolutely, but for me, I'll go with yes as well. I know. I'll take that back. Yes. Okay. I give it back again. Yeah, I would say they belong on pizza.
Yeah, that's hey, people have different preferences, man.
Yeah.
I mentioned in the past interview before with John Quasto that I personally do not prefer the ham aspect of the pineapple pizza. I'm not a huge fan of ham. I'm sorry, that's just me. And I honestly, and I got made fun of by Priscilla by this. For those who don't know, that's my BFFL. Follow her on Life of Doc Priscilla on Instagram. Anyways, I was told by her, you like mushrooms on pizza.
Mushrooms. Yeah, I'm gonna go with mushrooms. Let's go back to the pineapple for just. My tie is freaking out. Just go back to the pineapple for just a minute. And now I would put the pineapple on the pizza if it was just like cheese and maybe bell peppers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no ham, none of that. Mushrooms, yeah, I can tolerate that. Pretty much anything really on my pizza, as long as it's not too gross tasting. But
yeah, hey, I mean, people have different tastes, man. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, some people like to make their pizza into a burrito sometimes. That's called a hot pocket. Some people like to, it's different. Some people even like to put pizza in milk.
What kind of people are those?
I don't know. But anyways, glad you're able to do this interview. I really do appreciate it, like I mentioned before. So the first question that I have is, obviously you've showcased your passion for art on Instagram, and the presence you have is absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. You have made such incredible art pieces of Davy Boy Smith, Road Warrior Animal. You even did at one point a commission of the man Becky Lynch with the jacket behind it saying Vinitude Art. Where does the passion for your art come from, and is there anybody in particular that has influenced you to become an artist?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I would say the inspiration has come from just watching cartoons as a kid. I think that was I wouldn't say real escape from reality or anything. Like, I had a hard upbringing, but I think, anyone that grew up in the 90s or in the late 90s, there were so many cool cartoons out. You had He-Man, Thundercats, Ninja Turtles, all kinds of cool animations. And so that kind of inspired me to begin with. And my dad, he was actually a really, really, really good artist. And so he always challenged me with my art, and I always wanted to be better than him. And I've got who are really good at art too. So it's always been like this challenge to just kind of trash talk and one up the other person when it comes to art and creativeness. But like random story that just comes to my mind is I think the Ninja Turtles movie from like in the 90s, the first one, and like Raphael gets beat up and then he's laying in the bathtub or something, and then April O'Neil's just like sketching Leonardo like freaking out or something, or sleeping, or something. When I saw those pictures, those drawings, whoever drew them, I thought they were cool. But that's what really inspired me. I was like, man, I wish I could draw Ninja Turtles as good as April O'Neil. But then later on in life, I figured it's probably a prop or something. But yeah, definitely cartoons. Long story short, and just competition among siblings.
That's always the perfect motivation, right? It's awesome. So, like I mentioned before, you have your humble beginnings of, of these other artists that you adored, whether that's from, like you mentioned before, about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, or just the, the '90s. Of course, the '90s had the best cartoons. I mean, obviously, you had so much going on during those times. I think Rocket Power was definitely one of my favorites back in the day, even though it's kind of controversial. But I mean, it's definitely one of my favorites, especially on the animation aspect. So when you mentioned about the animation aspect, you have such a unique style to your art, because you make certain, when it comes to your art, you make the art become a reality in a sense, because you make it okay. So I'm gonna make, for example, I'm pulling up your Instagram here, if you don't mind. I'm actually seeing one of them that's really eye popping, is one of Tegan Knox, which is the one that you made. I believe is that yes it is Tegan Knox that you made, and it was actually of her as a Captain Marvel, or same thing with Camille from the NWA. Just different people, different wrestlers, or even just people in general that just ask for your to make them, a better versions of themselves, as they say. What is it like to make something like a drawing into something special, in your opinion?
Oh man, another good question. Let's see. I think the coolest thing is like when you do get these requests of, especially from like athletes that are on, out there and like doing so much for other people as far as entertaining us as fans and things like that. Especially when those types of people come up and ask you to create something for them, but it's not like your typical portrait of them. And like I did one a while ago of a guy called Crimson. He used to be on Impact or TNA Wrestling, and he was like, "Yo, can you make me look like Captain America or something like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind doing that." And then I did one for his son, and I guess it's just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm my own worst critic when it comes to drawing and art. But then when I give the finished product to the people and they see what I've created, and then they get so much joy and just like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. It really does help me to kind of value my own art, if that makes sense. Just I never would have thought ever that just being able to draw on a piece of paper, or nowadays it's like using an iPad and stuff. But I never thought I could use that as a way to bring somebody else like happiness or a smile on their face or laughter. And a shout out to Nolan Harris as well for what he does, because that caricature stuff, it's super difficult. But I've seen videos of him like sketching it up, and then he shows the people, and they just always have a smile on their face. And so, props to him for being able to bring a smile to so many people with what gifts he has. So I'd like to get to that level at some point. But I can see, the stuff. Again, I'm kind of going a bit long, but
no worries.
And create something from my own hands, and then be able to give it to somebody else, and them finding joy out of it, like and framing it and putting it on their wall in their home, like it still just blows my mind, you know. So I don't know. I'm still trying to get used to things like that.
That's awesome. I mean, especially the passion that you have for art is absolutely incredible. I mean, I remember when I was growing up at like 2, 3 years old, I was just nothing but drawing, 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 drawing. I was making
Yeah,
these weird characters that like people would think that it was like, what? And I was making stories, I was making books. Just as these little kid of like the adventures of a fake John Cena, which I don't even know what I called it back in the day. It was like an alligator with like two muscles on like one arm, and then the other one was like a robotic arm. It was weird. I don't know, but it was just the creativity, which I see within you and your art, is that the creativity of bringing an idea and just bringing it into real life. You know, stuff that you have done in the past for other people, and just it not only brings a smile to their faces, my face, but just and to the entire wrestling community. So we really thank you for putting that into
yeah.
perspective.
I appreciate them giving me an opportunity, and guys like you as well giving me an opportunity to create stuff for you. You know, I remember again another guy I'm going to shout out, Wrestling Classic. You've already brought him up before. Well, so maybe it was an earlier conversation, but I remember like when this was maybe, I don't know, 6 years ago or so, and I started following the Wrestling Classic page, and at that time I don't think he was posting a lot of like images of himself or anything.
Mhm.
So I kind of messaged him and I was like, yo, I'd like to draw something. Do you have a picture of yourself? I'd like to, go kind of give a thanks or an appreciation back to him. And so he kind of sent me a picture. It was like a side profile or whatever. But then I created this thing where he was like, his face on like Macho Man Randy Savage's body or something like that. And I showed it to him. He loved it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's my way of giving back to the people that have really supported me, I guess. I like to do their pictures and their caricatures, and
That's
I don't.
yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, like I mentioned before to you and to many other people, I believe in supporting those who support you.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that's not a philosophy to me. That is reality. I mean, you always appreciate those that once you make it to the big ranks, as Macho Man would say. You know what I mean? It's just you have to be thankful for that, because if it wasn't for people like Vinitude Arts, or for Nolan Wrestling Classic, Justin and the Wrestling Classic, or
Yeah.
any of those that we have mentioned before, who had just said, you know what, I see something in this person. It's cool to see, people like you succeed, or people like people who didn't think that, man, we're not going to make it that far, to succeed like that
Yeah.
is absolutely incredible. So I mean, I'm happy to see you do what you're doing, killing it, and it's just awesome to see, man.
Man, thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
So now we're gonna go on to your inspiration towards the wrestling aspect. I mean, what
Yeah.
inspired you to become a wrestling fan?
All right. So I don't know if there's a way to make this story short, but I'm going to try.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I grew up, you can't tell, I've got a bit of an accent, maybe. It's kind of blended in with the American now, I feel. But I grew up in England, in London, England, and early 90s, we didn't have any cable or anything like that. So I was never really catching wrestling live on TV. What I'd have to do is get VHS tapes. The neighbor had like Sky Sports, and so she would record like the major pay-per-views for me. And I would just watch those tapes over and over again. But I was introduced to pro wrestling at a cousin's house. They had the certain channels that would get the American, shows and stuff. And I remember the first thing I saw was like Macho Man and Elizabeth's wedding. I think that was the first bit of like wrestling I saw, and I thought, what is this? But then the matches started coming in after that, and Ultimate Warrior 100% stuck out to me the most out of all those guys. So it was just that larger than life kind of characters, the colors, even Vince McMahon on commentary, like his real like over the top, just excited about everything, kind of, oh no, what's going to happen kind of thing in his voice. That just really appealed to me. And so definitely introduced from friends and things like that to wrestling, and it always just stuck. And then as time went on, we used to get WCW on the local channels. And this was like Surfer Sting and Marcus Bagwell and Harlem Heat, that kind of stuff. So I'd catch that. But WWF was like my thing. I preferred that over WCW. And then in '97, I moved to America for about a year. I went to middle school. And as I was flicking through the guide channel, I saw WWF Monday Night Raw, scrolling up as it used to. I don't know if it still does now, but and so I flicked it, and it was like the Road Warriors fighting somebody. And I automatically just got hooked again. I remembered my childhood from like the early '90s, thinking about, oh man, this was cool. And then I found out like Hulk Hogan and all them lot were WCW. So then I realized there's a whole different like Monday Night War thing going on. But I was always Team WWF regardless of it all. But yeah, I don't know. Just something about that whole thing has always stuck with me. And I've had friends that it's like, they've grown up and they don't really follow wrestling anymore, and they don't really see it as, legitimate entertainment anymore. They think it's silly. But for me, it's still a part of my life, man. I mean, I still collect action figures. I have collectible items. I've got a jacket from Chelsea Green that's just hanging up here. I need to frame it and put it somewhere good. Chalk line jackets, things like that. Like, nice. It's just such a part of my life right now. It's crazy. I don't think I'll ever grow out of it. My wife, who I married back in 2012, I slowly started introducing her back into wrestling as well. So we bought like all the WrestleManias, and we used to watch them, every other night or something. And so here's the wave of children coming in. You might hear them in the back. But yeah, I don't know. Long story short, I don't know if I can make it short. It's just something that I fell into and I loved, and I can't get out of it. And realize like maybe I can use my art as a way to get these feelings and emotions out of me, because I don't know if someone said it before. I feel like someone may have said it. It may have been Nolan, but as he draws these characters, he kind of remembers the matches that they belonged to, and that's how it is with me. Like, I'll show you real quick. I'm not trying to plug any of my stuff, but here's an example. So I have a Ric Flair I drew, but as I was drawing it, it just reminded me of like the cool NWA, the WCW stuff, and I don't know. It's just been a part of my life, and hopefully it continues to be.
That's absolutely beautiful, man. I mean, like for me as a wrestling fan, it's so different. You know what I mean? When you're growing up and you're, even now, I mean, I just recently graduated from community college, where I told him, I was like, you know what? I want to become a sports broadcaster. Maybe I'll be in the seats of a Michael Cole. Who? I'll be in a seat of a Jim Ross. Who? I'll be in a seat of Excalibur. Is that a drink? I'm like, what? No, but it's the love, man. It's the sport. It's WWE. Like, I was born the night Vince McMahon won the Royal Rumble, and my mom was watching the pay-per-view from the hospital. I'm like,
hey.
So it's a love, man. It's honestly a love and a passion, and that's something that I'm glad that we all share, that we could talk about and that we can relate to. And generations ahead of us will, whether they love it or not, at least we could share with them, the WrestleManias. Like, the WrestleMania that I will still remember that I grew up watching has to be WrestleMania 25, when Taker and Michaels went at it for the first time. Sadly, 26 didn't, wasn't a little bit better, but it was still awesome to see. WrestleMania 28 is another one, an absolute stacked WrestleMania. You had Triple H versus The Undertaker, one final encounter with each other. All ends would, be over in a in a Hell in a Cell match with Shawn Michaels as the special guest referee, who wants the streak to end, and then it doesn't happen. It's like, it's crazy, man. I mean, it's absolutely crazy, but it's just one of those things where you're just like, it takes the heart. It's absolutely takes the heart. And that's what I love, when I'm talking to you and to all the peeps over, in social media. So yeah, I spilled on so many times. Yeah. So that's cool about your wrestling origins and what inspired the fire, as they say. That's so not a quote from Becky Lynch at all. But speaking about wrestling, what was so when you were approached by these other professional wrestlers to do stuff for them, what was the initial reaction? Was it like, okay, well, it was kind of, maybe it was just like another fan commission, or was it like, this is the coolest thing ever? Like, what was the reaction?
that's always the reaction. Like, again, I'm my own worst critic when it comes to my artwork. So when someone else is like, "Hey, can you do this for me?" or "I really like this," or even at wrestling shows, like there's a few live shows where I, set up my prints and things like that, and uh, when people come by and buy them, it still blows my mind. Like, wow, you really want this over this guy's T-shirt that's a couple tables to the left of me or to the right of me. But yeah, every time I get a message from somebody and they're just like, "Hey, can you do this for me real quick?" or "Can you create this for my home?" or anything like that, from a professional wrestler, it still just blows my mind. I still get excited. I still feel like I'm a little kid, just because it's wild. It's like, and another story. Like, okay, so
Go ahead, go ahead.
Bulldog's daughter is doing like incredible things for her, to bring her dad's name back to the forefront of like wrestling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the other Hart, Lindsay Hart, who's doing like incredible makeup stuff on her YouTube channel and things like that. And these are people, the family tree that they're in is like the stuff that you grew up watching in the 90s, like Bret Hart. You ever going to talk to Bret Hart, or you ever going to talk to the British Bulldog? And yet through this whole Instagram thing, you get opportunities to like talk to these legends, like family members and relatives, or whether it's a superstar themselves. And so it just takes you back, like Road Warrior Animal. I've done stuff for him, and I'm just like, I watched you in like 1992 SummerSlam, and and here you are DMing back and forth, and it's crazy, but it's awesome. So it's always wild to just even think about having those opportunities to do art for those types of people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Oh, and shout out to like the Bella Twins Army people, or the Bella Army, because
okay.
back in 2014, the first doodle that I did, I think it was like a Bella Twins or something, or it may have been a Dolph Ziggler. And I just posted it, not really thinking anything would happen from it. I think Instagram, I had first downloaded it not too long prior to that, or anything like that, or Twitter as well. But they started like retweeting it, and it just sharing it, and it, most of my followers are from the Bella Army, and that's great. I don't have any regrets for that. So I just want to give them a shout out, and they're still around, even though they've retired. I think their fan base is still just as strong, it seems. So I don't think if I hadn't got the response from them, all these Bella fans, I don't even know if I would have continued doing wrestling art. To be honest, it would have just been something I do for fun. I don't think I would have like consistently posted stuff, on Instagram, but it was because of them and that following and that like group of people that I was just like, wow, they really like this wrestling stuff. So I don't know what I'm talking about, Mike. I'm just going from one place to another. So.
Yeah, no, you're good, man. You're good. This is what I love. I love hearing about these experiences, and not only that, a Bella Army inspiration, like that's awesome. I mean, that's incredible. Like even for me, for example, like I didn't know my favorite professional wrestler, Drew Gulak, would follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Wow.
I didn't know that my favorite AEW wrestler, who's now controversial and I can't say on camera, knows who I am. It's like, it's absolutely crazy to say the least. But I mean, like I mentioned before, like I'm happy when that happens to people that that I've supported for so long, because
Yeah.
I've always claimed that positivity creates positivity. Seeing those that you supported or so that have supported you succeed is a better reward, in my opinion, than overstepping their boundaries, or you know what I mean, like anything of the negative standpoint. So like kudos to you, my friend. I mean, that's awesome, and especially having you engage with the wrestling faithful, and seeing how much you've progressed and all that is absolutely awesome, dude.
Oh man, it's been fun. Hopefully I can still get better. I still have commissions to do, but it's like trying to balance home life with work, and then children, and it's hopefully one day my art will just be my maybe primary income or something like that, where I can really dedicate the time to that craft. But I'm happy with it, the way things are going so far.
That's awesome. I mean, like I mentioned before, and I've told this to a couple of people in the past.
Yeah.
No matter what, your passion is going to guide you to the right direction. And of course, family, everything comes up. We all know that, and they're
Hmm.
always the main priority, which they are. But always know that they're also your main supporters, your cheerleaders, as they say. As much as that's a kind of a broad term, that's just the truth.
Yeah.
It's my family, for example, my mom, my grandma, my aunt, and my uncle, my little cousins that visit here and there, my grandfather looking
Yeah.
above me from heaven. I mean, it's those are the main, motivators and cheerleaders in a sense, to guide me to the right direction, as towards you and your family as well, to
Yeah.
guide the right direction. So I mean, just don't stop, man. I mean, you have your whole entire life to pursue what you want to do. If you want to become the best person ever, and you want to be the next person to make a logo for a wrestling promotion, do it. If you want to be Cody Rhodes's personal graphic designer or artist, do it. If you want, you know what I mean? I'm just saying the possibilities here. If you want to be, if you want to be anything, and just in general, just
Yeah.
do it. There's nothing wrong with I've talked to people in the past. Like, for example, I've talked to Taylor Glenn, who's a professional juggler who showcases her passion for professional juggling. Something that people are like, professional juggling, like that's new, but like are interested in trying, and that's her thing.
Yeah.
Is her YouTube channel is called Taylor Tries, and she
Okay.
tries these different tutorials, and then people are hooked in. They're like, you know what, I want to do the same thing, and her positivity and her passion brings
Yeah.
those other people who want to be passionate, who want to be more positive in their life. So when I meet people like you, it's like, man, I want to go back into drawing. Like my drawing sucked, but
Do it.
at least I want to try going back in it. So I mean
Do it for
that
sure.
yeah. So it's awesome to say the least. So, it's been awesome so far talking to you. I really do. Like I mentioned before, I appreciate you being on here and all that. But we do
Oh,
know you have a pro wrestling tee store, correct?
no, not yet.
Not yet.
That's the
What?
goal. That's
I
the
thought you.
goal. I have a T Public store, which anybody can
Oh
have a
yeah,
T
that's right.
Public.
Sorry.
But my goal is to get a pro wrestling tee store. But so it's funny that you even mentioned that. That's my goal. Not like a major goal, but that's definitely a goal. To be honest, my Instagram's just been like super stagnant as of late, and I don't know if that's just because the way social media works. So every few years something new comes along,
Mhm.
but yeah, the goal is to kind of push forward, and Chris Van Vliet, I try to follow his stuff and listen to his interviews, and he always has that vague goals, vague results thing. So I'm trying to push myself to be more specific in my goal reaching. So, but yeah, definitely that would be cool to have a store like that. Amongst all those other great names in the wrestling world, that'd be cool.
Hey, but like I mentioned before I made that mistake, make sure you guys go check out his T Public store, which I don't know why I said pro wrestling tees, but it will be there. It will be there. Link will be in the description below. So before we get everything to an end right here, once again, I want to thank you for being on here. Thank you for taking the
Oh,
time for
trouble.
what was that?
I said it's no trouble at all. I kind of don't end because it's been a while since I've, you know. Okay, another crazy story. My phone, all right, my cell phone that I've had for so long, it was kind of new. I got it brand new, but for some reason, whenever I open like an app like Snapchat or Instagram Stories, and I try to record something and say something, it never worked. So
Mhm.
I'd see all these people going live on Instagram, and and the invites there, like, hey, join me. We can go live together and things like that. And I'm just like, well, my phone's broken. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So now, after so many years, I have a phone that works. So now I just want to keep yapping and yapping. But I don't know. Yeah, just a weird story.
Yeah, no worries. The stories are why we're here. So it's awesome to say the least. Like I mentioned
Yeah,
before, it's been awesome. I've definitely loved the conversation and your beginnings, and what you're doing now is absolutely incredible. please
I'm
keep going. Please keep pursuing that passion and
thank you
displaying
so much.
that passion on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So I guess the final question. Oh, like I picked a good one for you, especially since you're Vinitude Arts, of course. You're the legend himself.
Ah,
Hmm.
thank
Ah,
you.
man, what's it? Oh yeah. So the final question is,
Yes, sir.
will the beard ever come back?
It has to at this point. I feel so weird without it. I'd never ever grown it that long before. Um, but yeah, it just baby face is just not my thing. That's why I even got these chops because I was like, I can't go clean shaven. Like it just doesn't work for me. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna wait for it to grow back again. It may be a little while, but I'll definitely try to grow it back. And one more thing before we finish.
Yeah, go ahead. Floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, I just to all the artists out there, if there's other wrestling artists out there, because I know there's so many, you can click a hashtag like such and such, some company art, fan art or something, and you'll see incredible stuff. I just want to say, like, for you guys to just continue to do what you're doing, because you inspire people like me who try to create wrestling art as well, and there's some names that I could drop as far as like my favorite artists, but
Go ahead. No,
uh,
now's your time.
you know, art by Christie. I think she's a British artist. She's incredible. She does a lot of like pencil work, like shading is off the charts. Obviously Nolanium, he's a good one. Everyone knows him. I kind of see him as the king of wrestling art at the moment. Is I don't know. I'm going to butcher names if I try to name them all off, but they know who they are because I kind of tell them how good they are. But yeah, just if you are inspiring like Mike, Sock Monkey Mike, to get back into drawing, 100% do it. It's so much fun, and there's no like scale on 1 to 10 of like it has to be this good or it's complete trash. Like any art, whether it's a stick figure to some immaculate painting, it's all what comes from your heart and comes from within that you just put on your paper or nowadays again on your iPad, and it inspires other artists like myself. Um, like okay, final story that I'll ramble on. The job that I have outside of like drawing and stuff, I get to work with kids, and so I try to bring out their creative side, give them something to paint, give them something to draw, and they're messing around with watercolors. And then when I see their finished product, like sometimes they come up with such crazy, wicked, cool stuff that it just inspires me. And so, yeah, regardless of what level you're at with your drawing or whatever it is you're into, um, keep doing it because there's people watching and people hashtagging and clicking on stuff, and you never know who's going to be inspired by it and what kind of doors and things like that would open up opportunity wise, but yeah, it's crazy, Mike. I hope we can do this again sometime. uh
Absolutely.
you know let's
Yeah.
get those views in, let's get those shares so we can do these again.
Yeah, of course. I will definitely contact you, and maybe we could do it again in the future. Again, I'm going to say it again for like the second, third time. It was awesome. There's no doubt in my mind that this conversation, the stories that you told, and the stories of your beginnings, and the story of, I like honestly, I didn't know that, you've inspired, the younger generation to embrace their creativity, because I think that's very lost nowadays. You know what I mean? Because with, oh well, just because he's drawing a tree doesn't mean I get to draw a tree,
Yeah,
or just because he's doing a review show on NXT and AEW doesn't mean that I can. There's no limit.
yeah,
There's no barrier to stop you, because as long as you could show why yours is better than his, or yours is more creative than this person's, there's endless possibilities. That's not just with art, that's with everything. And you have the strive, my friend. you have that mindset where you have that growth mindset in a sense where it's like, you know what? I know I'm going to fail sometimes. I know I'm not going to have as many likes in this one post. I'm not going to sell as many t-shirts that'll get me a store on Pro Wrestling Tees. Like it's, there will be struggle, but as
Yeah.
long as you know that this is a process and that, there things work in mysterious ways, you're golden. You're absolutely golden. And this is not just me saying this on camera. This is literally just me saying it in general from the bottom of my heart. I
Oh
mean,
man.
I genuinely believe this. So, Nolan, hopefully you're watching. Look at the brand new person that's right here, upstart. Same thing with all you artists out there. You heard the man himself. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you guys follow. I'm going to point. Where am I pointing? This way. I am pointing this way to Vinitude's Instagram, Twitter, his red. I can't say it today. His store, which I will put in the description below. He's looking nice. He's a great friend of mine. Make sure you guys go check him out on all of his stuff. And hey, maybe even do some commissions for the guy. Awesome, dude. Awesome.
They fit you in. And another thing, Millennium, next year's WrestleMania. What you gonna do, brother? When Vinitude runs wild on you, brother.
That was perfect. Perfect ending to this. Thank you guys so much. And I will see you guys in the next interview. Boom. Salutations.
Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, of course. And